Oh, hey, it's Future Lily. She did this without telling you. File new and use your document template. How do I do that? That's a good place to start. So the first thing I did was I fit to page area, and that is because our template file, I think I inadvertently saved us way over like 300 feet from the origin. So if your template file up at the top has like 300 something something, then you're going to want to go to fit to page area in order to bring it back to closer to the origin, right? So if you see where I hover here, up at the top and then on the side of the drafting, there's a yellow line and bar, and that kind of tells you where the origin of the file is. And that's a useful place to be. So let's go there. So we'll start by doing that. Then you'll be on your scenery layer, which you should already be on, ready to start on this project. We're going to go ahead and save it so that you have it, right? We're going to save it into your CAD class folder, a new folder for desk project. Create. And then we're going to save this as desk 2, I keep typing it wrong, 2D. Oh, right, my name. Okay, great. So that into there, beautiful, great. Okay, so now this has a name, which is good because then we'll be able to find it again. And it is in our template file. Let me do a quick explainer with some slides about orthographic projections, and then we'll talk about our assignment sheet for this project. Right here are orthographic projections, which is our concept for most of our drafting. The idea is that you take all of your, each piece of scenery, you imagine that there is a glass box around it, and then you pull from each of the sides of it what it would look like. And that by providing at least 3 of these views, you should be able to, as a carpenter, construct whatever the object is. Okay, so here's the example where you choose a front, a top, a side view, right? You'll notice this in this dimension, this is as if the glass box were unfolded, right? Across each of these hinge lines, all of the lines carry over because those dimensions should all be the same. And that's how we want to lay out our plates when we get to that point. So if we look here, right, dimension relationships, the width of something, the depth of it, right, and then the way that that appears in the side view. So whatever is at the top here would then transfer over and be the off side of the side view here, okay? Here are some examples, right? If the top view is this, any of these shapes could be contained within that top view. So we would need to have more information in order to extrapolate what that should be, right? We would need to see this side view, right? Or this side view in order to know what that actually would be. Here's an example also of a method for transferring those measurements when you're hand drafting. We won't be doing that as much because we have computer, but that's just a way to think about how those lines and the arrangement of those plates connect. And then these are examples of how we draft our dashed lines, our hidden lines. So in the case of something like this, where this is the face of it, there would be a hidden line showing what was behind if we were to draft from this side of the glass box. Vectorworks actually, when we get to our next assignment, creates those hidden dashed lines for you, so you don't have to worry about that, right? Vectorworks is going to create dashed lines for anything using the hidden line drawing mode. So that's what that will mean, and we'll get to that at some point later in the game. And we are now going to work through one of our assignments, the desk project. We are going to do a 2D orthographic projection of a desk. Amazing. Ta-da. So here is the assignment sheet. You will receive a hard copy of this assignment sheet. I'm going to go ahead and bring it into my Vectorworks file just so that I have it for reference. But the idea is there's this desk, right? You can add any of these cute little details that you feel like adding, but what we need is the basic shape of the desk to be recreated so that the shop can build it. So we can use some of these dimensions that are given to help us figure out how big it should be. We can use the dimensions on this little isometric view of the desk to help us figure out how big it should be. So all of those things are available information. It will not include all information, so there will still be decisions that we make as a designer in order to provide a drafting that will closely resemble this desk when it is built. We're going to start with the top view. So for the top of the desk, we only want to draft the things that you can see if you are looking straight down on this desk, okay? So in that case, the primary shape is a rectangle, and for the purposes of this drafting, I don't need this detail. If you'd like to add it, go for it, feel free, but I don't actually need it. So I need a rectangle that's going to be 47.5 inches by 23.5 inches, because those are my dimensions that have been given in our drawing. So I'm just going to draw this rectangle, right? I'm going to hit tab. I'm going to say that the x is 47.5 and that the y is, what did I say, 23.5? Yeah, 23.5, 23.5. Boom, there it is. It's a little small. That's fine. We're good with that. We're going to go with it. Okay, so that's my top view. This is all I need for the top view from you, okay? You can double check if you click on this that it is the correct height and width, right? And now we are going to work on a front view. So we're going to work on the view that'll be straight below it. To do that, I'm going to start by duplicating Command D, and then I'm going to line this up right below it, and then I'm going to drag it straight down. So I snapped it into that corner and I dragged it straight down because it's important to me that this view aligns with that view, because then anything that would be true here will correctly match up over there, okay? And we'll do the same thing when we go over this way, where we'll take this shape and we'll pull it over to the side. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and figure out the thickness of this top desk part, okay? So we know the knee space, and maybe that's where we should start, right? The knee space gives us the width between these two pieces and then the height below that tabletop. So if we are to look at, and then the depth is going to again be 23.5, which is the whole width of the thing. So for the knee space, we have 25.75 and 39.12, which is a stupid number, but we're gonna go ahead and make that number part of our lives. So I'm gonna take an extra rectangle. I'm gonna take 25.75. Is that the x? It's not. That's the height. So I want to actually put that on the other dimension. 39.12. And then over here, we're going to put 25.75. Okay, so that's the knee space. That's going to be useful to us. We also have an overall height of 30 inches. And I'm going to just quickly change this box to have that 30-inch height. So that makes it a little taller, right? I'm going to come in here and I'm going to center this up inside, right? So I picked this up from its bottom center point and I snapped it to the center point. So now I know this will be the inside of this opening, okay? And that's going to give me some guidance as I build the shapes that go around it, okay? So all of these side framing pieces and everything have to fit into that gap that's left after that, okay? So now I'm going to draw a tabletop, and we're going to just decide, because we are designers, that it's maybe an inch thick. If I come over here and I highlight on that so that it snaps, I will keep my X the same. Then I can hit tab and be like -1 inch. Does that seem thick enough in the picture? I don't know. What do you think? Maybe 1.5? 1.25? So a thing I can do, once I have it already existing, is I can look at where my anchor point is, and I can say plus 0.5 and make it a little thicker. I think that I like that 1.5 a little better. I'm going to just duplicate this because it makes sense to me to do that. I'm going to bring it, again, I'm going to pick it up by the corner up here, set it down right there, and now I'm just going to manipulate it. So I'm going to pull it down like this, so it's going to fill in that whole front gap. I'm not going to draft in the drawer right now, but you are absolutely welcome to if you want to. I do need to pull it in. See how there's an overhang? So I'm doing this sort of piece of the frame, and there is an overhang here. So I'm going to pull it in by 1.5 inches on each side. So that's going to be 3 inches total. And again, I'm going to do it by editing the thing I already have. So I'm going to just move my anchor point to the center, and then I'm going to mess with the width. I'm just going to subtract 3 inches total, and it's going to pull that in nicely underneath. And it looks like this is then even narrower underneath, right? This front table leg is even narrower underneath that. So, cool, great. Maybe we make this 1 inch bigger. Don't you love how I'm just deciding things as I go? So it doesn't quite come in as far, because then I can make something. See, the thickness of this, the height, is 2 3/4. And I want a rectangle that fits under here, right? So I hovered over that in order to pick up that snap. I'm going to draw it in there. I'm going to come back like this. The width is some weird number. I'm going to make it 2.75 or 2 3/4. Bring it in. So now it's kind of fitting underneath, and it looks like it's the same frame width as the piece that's sitting on top of it. So now I've got that shape. Maybe it should only be 2.5. It feels like it's not overhanging enough. So again, I have my anchor point here. So now if I make the width instead of 2 3/4, if I make it 2.5 inches, maybe that's better. We'll take it. Okay, so now I have this side. I'm going to delete my 2 extra boxes, get those out of my way, and then I'm going to mirror, so I'll just snap to the center and mirror that leg over to the other side. And then the last piece that I'm going to see from the front is this framing piece across the back. And there's not like a given dimension for it, but it looks like it's about 1/3 of the way up. So if that's 1/3 of the way up, it's like 10 inches from the floor. So I'm going to just draw in a box. I'm going to arbitrarily, right, I'm going to make the width correct. Oops, I'm still using my mirror tool. X key, X key. Keyboard shortcut 4 to pick up my rectangle. I'm going to draw in this box. I'm going to hit tab. I'm going to leave that the same. I'm going to make the height like just 2 inches like this. Great. Click to accept, move, and then my Y offset will be 10 inches. I should put inches and not some random thing. Great. So now that's my front view. 2 down, 1 to go. So now we're going to do the side view, and the side view is a little tricky because it has this whole X situation, but we're going to get it. We're going to do it. So to create the side view over here, I know I want the width to match this width, okay? So I'm going to copy and paste my front because it seems like a good enough place to start because I know the tabletop is going to be the same. I'm going to drag it over here, right? So these are now still aligned, which is a good thing for us. And then I'm going to shrink everything down. So I wanted, let's see, I want the whole width of the tabletop to be 23.5 inches. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to put my anchor point up there in that top corner. I'm going to make the width 23.5, right? Great. Beautiful. I'm going to play kind of the same game I did before. I can either measure what this distance is, and I can do that with my dimension tool real quick. It's 1 inch. That was easy. So then what I might do, X key, get my cursor back, is reshape this, let it snap in there. Keep my cursor point here, and then minus 1 inch. Did it do it? Minus 1 inch. There it is. And now it's shrinking that underneath. I don't need this. I don't need this. We're doing a different thing. So I'm going to take this leg, and I'm going to mirror once again, because I do think it's symmetrical. So I'm going to mirror across to the other side. Boop, boop. And then I also need a framing piece here on the bottom. And it looks like these legs are wider or like twice as wide in the front relative to their side view. So let's go ahead and make that quick adjustment. So if the total width right now, so if I were to make that half as wide, I would make it 1 1/4 inches instead of 2.5. 1 1/4 inches. Better. Let's mirror this leg. I just noticed that as I was going. Okay, then I'm going to make a rectangle that connects across the bottom, and it's also going to be 1 1/4. So I'm going to leave that alone, and I'm going to make the Y 1 1/4 inches, and that fills in this framing piece along the bottom. Okay, so that covers that, and now I just have to do this annoying X that goes crisscross on the sides. Okay, so to make that X, I'm going to start with my rectangle tool, but instead of the way I have been using it, I'm going to use it in this sort of slanty way. And I'm going to start up here. I'm going to draw a 45-degree angle, right? And it's kind of snapping as it goes around, and if I hold shift, it'll snap even better. So I'm going to go ahead and snap to that 45-degree angle. I'm going to go all the way across. Then I'm going to start extending my guy out, okay? So I've set it at a 45, and I'm now extending it open. I'm going to just hit Tab and make my X dimension, let's make this a little smaller, so 3/4, okay? And then I'm going to click. I think that's still too big, so let's make the width 3/4. There we go, that's better. Okay, so I have this guy here, so cute. Right? I know he's at a 45, which is a nice angle to be at, so I'm going to leave that like that. I'm just guessing, right, that that's kind of centered top to bottom. I'm going to go ahead and mirror him across. So I'm going to pick that midpoint, I'm going to mirror him, I'm going to have these two crisscrossed pieces. I'm going to now come in here, and I'm going to add them together. So I have a nice mirrored X. Add surface. So now those are all sitting on top of the piece. Then I can send this X to the back, and I'm doing it by right clicking, but that's actually not even on your screen anymore. So let me see if I move that a little higher, if I can get it so that you can see what I'm doing. Send to back. That's also available in your menu, right? You can go to your modify menu and you can send to back up there. You can learn keyboard shortcuts. So now it's hiding behind those side legs, which is beautiful. And then if I select all of that stuff, right, or especially this stuff, and hold down Option, so I get those two outside legs, now I can clip surface, and it will trim off the extra parts so that I have an X that just nicely fits, and it'll be centered, right, because I used the mirror tool to create it. And that fills in on the sides. So that is the drafting of the piece. Great, okay. Once you have finished drafting it, you're welcome to add additional details. So if you want to put the drawer in, if you want to put any of this hardware, you can carry that over from the edges, right? Feel free to add in additional detail as you see fit. But the minimum is a clear top view, clear front view, clear side view. So we've done it. Now we're going to create a set of viewports of this, and we're going to arrange them in this way on our sheet layer. So let's go do that. So first I'm going to go into view, and I'm going to just say create viewport. It's going to make a big viewport that includes all of this stuff, and we'll clean that up in a minute. I'm going to use my 8.5 by 11 sheet the way I always do. We're going to call this the 2D desk. And like we did before on our door, we're going to make it 1/2 inch scale just so it fits a little bit more onto the page. The drawing title should actually be desk top, because we're going to start with the top view. Okay. So as the last time, right, it brought in all of this business. We don't need all this business. So we're going to actually come in and crop down to just showing the top view. And I'm not even going to keep that word top. I'm just going to make a box, right? I'm also going to change my rectangle back to its normal mode. Exit viewport crop, because desktop is available here, right? Then I'm going to go into annotations, and we're going to just do some quick dimensions, kind of the way we did before. You will do your best. I will give you feedback so that you have as much detail as possible. I really am annoyed. I'm annoyed by that standard. I really like ASME better. Let's see. Much better. I like it better. Okay. That's my preference. I don't know. I am your teacher, so maybe you should use my preference. Then we're going to come up here. We're going to do the top. I know it's intersecting the page border. I will clean that up later. I'm going to exit. I'm going to exit my viewport annotation, hit my X key, get my pointer back, kind of drag it over here a little bit, and then update that. Okay, so now I have my top, and it has a nice little drawing label. Beautiful. Now I'm going to just quickly duplicate that, kind of snap it back in, double click on it, update the crop, right? Edit the crop. Move this crop box down so that it catches the front view, which you can't really see right now, but once we exit the crop, in theory, and we hit update, there's the front. Now I'm going to come in here to this front view, mess with the annotations, right? Bring the desk front down here, change the drawing label, so I can either do that in here, right? Or I can do it over here, so I can say desk front, so that the drawing label is now correct. I am going to crop out that word front because I don't need it. I have a drawing label for this. I have to exit viewport annotation to do that. But now that I can see it, it's a little easier to delete it. So I'll just do that. Cool. Update. And then, what's happening here? Oh, it brought those dimensions. Fair enough. So now I'll come in here and go into annotations. I will select the dimensions that it carried over, and I can pick them up by their insertion point. So if I pick it up with a little cross, I'll pop it down there so it'll match up again. This obviously taller, right? And then I can come in with my dimension tool, right? And I can add in some of these additional dimensions, okay? As we talked about before, there are things you'll need to do in order to clean up your dimensions. So you might, one of those things might be to pull a dimension out, right, when it's kind of stomping on top of its little arrows. And then if you come over here to the side, you can say leader line, right? And it'll make a little line that points to that for you so that it's a little bit cleaner, right? We're also going to always want to go from the outside being the biggest dimension and then inside of that, smaller dimensions. So if I were to give this dimension here, that height of that framing piece, 10 inches, it would be like this, right? I would want to try and figure out how to give that dimension. You want to give enough dimensions that a carpenter can build it without a technical director, right? You want to give enough information that they don't have to get out their scale rule and measure. Now, an example here on the bottom, right, I've stomped on my drawing label, so I'm going to actually move that down a little bit further. But the reason I did that was that I don't want to put this dimension inside of those lines. What I'm giving the measurement of is this framing piece, but I'm starting my insertion points down here at the bottom corners of my drafting. So if I started my insertion points at the end of it, I would have a dimension line coinciding with an object line, and that's not ideal. It's not what we want. So I'm going to actually come down here and set my dimension line outside of that object line, right? So it's down below. So you'll add your dimensions in, do as much as you feel like you need to, and then I will give you some feedback on it. And then we'll do one more of these, right? We'll do the side view. So I have my desktop, my desk front. I'm going to just duplicate that again. I will line it up. I'm actually going to go ahead and pull it over a little bit. And then I'm going to update the crop in order to move over here somewhere where there should be a side view. I just can't see it because I need to update the viewport. Exit the viewport crop. Update. Where are we going? Oh, there it is. There she blows. Okay, so now I can come in and clean up my annotations a little bit, and then I'll fix my crop. So let's just select all, and it'll pick up everything on that viewport's annotations. Slide it on over to the side. Some of these, again, will be the same, right? So if you were to pick it up by its insertion point, and like if your corner even existed there, you could snap it in. And then I'm going to maybe put this here, right? And then really I just have to get out of here in order to make this crop show the whole table. So viewport crop, Boop. Can I have the whole table, please? Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Update. There it is. Now I can see what I'm doing. Amazing. So we will come into annotations and we will edit our viewport. Right? I'm just picking up my insertion points of my dimension lines and kind of dragging them into where they go. In this case, I can delete that guy, come over here, clean that up, right? Come over here, bring that in, etc., etc., right? Typically, we're not going to do a diagonal dimension, but you could potentially. And then I'll exit that. And I'm not loving right now how kind of grainy that is, and I'm not sure if that is... Yeah, let's switch to top plan. It's a little cleaner. Let's go ahead and switch into top plan view. These were in top view, which is fine, but we're getting a cleaner... See how we're getting like a vector line when we switch from view top to view top plan. We want to be in a 2D mode if we can. So we either want to be in top plan view or in hidden line view. So the other thing I missed, of course, is to come in here, update this drawing to be desk side, the drawing label on it. And then we'll do a similar thing to what we did before and update your title block to have all of the correct information on it. If you finish all of this, then you can export this file as a PDF and submit it to the assignment. I would also love to get the Vectorworks file so that I can compare them.